Great morning, world. Great morning, my friends. This is your boy Dragon coming to you with another Rise Up with Dragon. Today's episode is called Retrocausality, and I'm very excited about it because it's going to give you the ability to shift. But I just want to first just welcome everybody to another Rise Up with Dragon.
Great morning, world! Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon!
Get into the float state with calmer mind meditations and gear.
So great morning, friends. As a reminder, because I've been doing this for so long, and you always hear me say great morning, and in my family, everybody makes fun of me. They go, great morning. Everybody makes fun of the dragon. The reason why I say great morning is because we're so conditioned and programmed to say good morning, and then I always question, why not great, right? The red glasses, and that's my dragon thought from the day. You know, the famous quote is, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So what I've been doing lately is putting myself, I mean, it's the very nature of me doing this show live, kind of feeds into what I'm saying now, this idea of just like taking a left turn instead of a right turn and things like that. So I've been putting on glasses lately, and I have to, I guess, always be cognizant of what people think about me when they see me wearing them. But these ones have a red tint to them, and I've done it before. Kind of goes with my Superman shirt today. But what I love is I love the idea of looking through different lenses to see how the world works and how it looks. So today, you know, everything looks red, and it's glowing red, and the light shining in my face and everything. So what's cool about that, as simple as it might sound, is it really does give you a different perspective, and it kind of reminds you of that idea of change the way you look at things, things you look at change. So that's my dragon thought for the day today is, if you don't like what you see, look at it differently. Look at it differently and put on a different pair of lenses. We're going to talk a little bit about seeing things through the lens of the past today and things like that. So, you know, if you don't like the way things look, change the way you look at them. And then all of a sudden you realize that you have a little bit more control. So let's talk about retrocausality. So the idea behind retrocausality, because this is a little bit different than what we've been taught about cause and effect, but the idea is that there's an observation of a behavior or an outcome of something in the future. So what I mean by that is, like, when you come up upon something in the future and you observe it, what it does is it actually has the ability to change and affect and change the reality of something that happened in the past. So think about that today. So the general nature of causality, as you and I have been programmed and taught, is known as cause and effect, right? So this means that what we do today impacts our reality tomorrow. So that's what cause and effect, it's a universal law of cause and effect. So furthermore, we spend much of our time trying to let go of the past and move on to our best life. So that's an interesting thing, and I speak about it a lot here. You can't look at the future through the lens of the past, right? That might not be necessarily true after you hear this rise up today. But what it says is that if you are looking at your future projection through a time that's already passed and it's not right now, that kind of doesn't apply anymore. So that's why we're always trying to drop our baggage, get rid of the past, so that we can proceed and live our best life. That's a very challenging thing to do. So I think this concept is going to be attractive to you. So retrocausality implies the opposite, as the cause occurs in the future, changing the effect of the past. So I'm going to try to explain this to you, and once it makes sense to you, you'll be able to play with it today. So here's an example. This was pioneered by an amazing guy named John Wheeler, Wheeler. He was a prominent theoretical physicist, another way of saying smart dude, who was observing whether photons were performing as waves or particles. So photons, when, before they're measured, he was observing whether or not they performed as waves or particles. So before he actually made the measurement, they were both, right? So by practicing what he called, this is cool, a delayed choice, and waiting a little bit longer to make the observation of how the photon was acting, and this is in that famous double slit experiment. If you're a big reader, you've read about that. He noticed that it exhibited properties and characteristics of both wave and particle in the space before they hit the double slit and were measured. Here's what's cool about that. So we talk a lot about the idea of cognitive distancing, seeing something happening and waiting, delaying your observation and creating space between it. And I teach people in my book to just say, right? Don't decide. Don't let your knee-jerk reaction go. But what he's saying is he was using this delayed observation, and because he was waiting to measure whether or not they were a wave or a particle, he said in that waiting space, they were actually both. They were a wave and a particle. So that's pretty cool. So once they were observed and measured after the slit, so in the future, once he observed them and measured them, it actually changed this observation of duality. So no longer were they waves and particles. He actually was able to identify if it was a wave or a particle. So this future observation affected the reality of the past. So think about that. I'm going to make it easier and bring it into terms of today. But what he's saying is that he waited, and once he made the observation and said it's a wave or a particle, it then made the past change, right? So this is pretty cool. So the future observation affected the reality of the past. So here's an example that'll help you kind of see how this, turns into your life. So say a child grows up in a really nice family full of love and kindness, right? Hopefully that's you. Has nothing but great memories of his past and great things to say about his family, right? His parents. Then learns in the future, he learns that one of his parents was a serial killer or something like that later on. That future, observation completely changes everything about what he thought about his past. So that's what retrocausality means. So hopefully you can dig on that now. So this idea that our future can dictate and change our past actually opens up another door to new concepts and possibilities of time travel as well. You're going back and forth between past. It's funny how we spend so much time trying to figure out how to travel in time when we kind of or are doing it to a small degree. Possibilities of time travel as well as the law of attraction, right? So law of attraction says do something now and attract something in the future. What I'm saying is do something now and attract a different reality in the past. So what it means is that once our perception is made, perception is so powerful. If you can tap in and start to control and manipulate and change your perception, change the way you look at things, red glasses, things will change. So what it means is that once our perception is made or has been changed, it impacts the past and the present. So in my book, I have a chapter called Life is a Line, which is just an awesome concept. Where we discuss the observation and evaluation of past events, meaning go back to past events, but going back to those past events with this new, fresh perspective that you have gained from awakening and evolving in life. So just think about this, like who you are now has a different ability to go back to a past event and reassess it and reobserve it. So we're doing some interesting retrocausality like time travel here. So this new fresh perspective that you have now from your growth and awakening today, and then go back and reassess things with this new level of consciousness in the past. So here's what might happen. Rather than looking at an event as something that you perceived happened to you, in the past, right? If you go back with this new, fresh version of yourself, you might go back to this event and it no longer is something that happened to you. Now you can actually, with this new, fresh perspective, go back to that past event and reevaluate it and look at things like, where you were at that time in your life, for instance. What else was going on that may have jaded your perception, which you couldn't have figured that out at that other time? What could have jaded your perception or created a blind spot, as well as evaluate the event itself with this new level of consciousness. Evaluate the event itself and see how it might have been something that was out of your control and actually had nothing to do with you sometimes. So this is the practice of this interface response system that I'm going to be able to teach. But I'm saying you can go back to a past event and reapply this new, advanced, upgraded version of yourself and reassess things. Perhaps, what's the outcome? Perhaps the perceived abusive relationship with a friend, a spouse, a parent can now be seen differently. Now it can be seen as a learning experience and make more sense, thus help you rewrite your past as an NVM. N like Nancy, V as in Victor, M as in Mary, which stands for a non-victim character. So in the video game world, when you walk up to one of these characters that are kind of just sitting there waiting for you to ask them a question, those are called non-player characters. What I'm saying is if you want to go rewrite your story, go back and look at a past event as an NVM, a non-victim character. And what will happen is this will trigger understanding, compassion, forgiveness, things that we have a tendency to struggle with, or maybe struggled with in that past event. So just as an example, but this retrocausality concept is powerful as we entertain rewriting our story and changing our current reality. And I just wrote here, fuck, this is heavy, isn't it? And I love it. But it has made it into my Life is Aligned chapter, that's for sure. This concept of retrocausality and NVMs and stuff like that. So I want to thank the universe for empowering me with this insight today. Love and appreciate you all. Have an amazing day. And this has been another Rise Up with Dragon.